One of the best new anime of 2025 so far, the Summer Hikaru Died is back once again with another episode. Just when it seems like this psychological horror anime couldn't possibly get any weirder or any deeper, they hit us with yet another shocking and out of nowhere surprise. Hello everyone, I'm Finn. Welcome back to Finn Films. Join me once again as we are reacting to and discussing everything that happened in this week's episode of one of my favorite new anime to come out this year. So then join me this week for the Summer Hikaru Died episode 7 in a nutshell. Last time on the Summer Hikaru Died, Yoshiki, Hikaru, and their school friends have a fun day hanging out at Hikaru's house. Yoshiki discovering another clue about the day Hikaru went missing on the mountain. The friends have a fun day, hanging out, shooting off fireworks together later that evening. Hikaru walking into town to get another lighter, joined by Achan, who to his surprise knows that he isn't the real Hikaru. We get a flashback of Achan as a child, learning of her abilities to see and hear spirits. Back in the present, Hikaru reaches out, grabbing her, as he attempts to kill her, but is stopped by Yoshiki, as she is knocked unconscious. Yoshiki being completely shocked and shook at Hikaru's actions and his lack of respect for human life. Achan wakes up believing Hikaru is possessed by a spirit, completely unaware that Hikaru did try to kill her. Yoshiki sends her back to Hikaru's house, angrily brushing by him as he leaves to go home for the night. The episode ending where the next day Hikaru wakes up, surprised to find Yoshiki waiting for him to go to school. Episode 7 opens here, as Yoshiki meets Hikaru at his house, both of them heading to school together, Hikaru being genuinely surprised that Yoshiki isn't angry at him for the events of the previous night. Yoshiki is surprising Hikaru again by suggesting the two of them ditch class together and go hang out at the movies. Meanwhile at school, we see that their class is preparing for the choir competition that day that we have seen them practicing for all season long. Their friends being surprised that Hikaru and Yoshiki aren't at school yet. Achan strangely not being able to hear her friend Yuchan say hello to her. Meanwhile, we see Yoshiki's sister skip another day of school heading to work with their mother, while Yoshiki's father is up on the mountain preparing to work at the lumberyard. Hikaru and Yoshiki take the train into town, Hikaru still concerned that Yoshiki is mad at him, despite Yoshiki telling him that he isn't. But we can tell that something is definitely off with our main character, as it very much seemed like the events of the previous episode have seemingly shaken him deeply. The two friends then go to the movie. Hikaru again still not convinced that Yoshiki is not upset about the events of the previous day. Meanwhile, we see the students at the school do their choir performance, singing the choir song we've heard the entire series so far, as we see a montage of Yoshiki's mom and father, as well as the two boys getting ice cream and hanging out. The scene very much feeling like a callback to the scene we got in episode 1, where we saw another montage scene of Yoshiki and Hikaru hanging out. Yoshiki winning Hikaru a prize in the crane game. Sea-Dog DA would definitely be proud. Hikaru saying that he is the nicest guy ever, as Yoshiki makes this hella sus face. Yoshiki then calls his mom just to say hi and to check in and see if she's alright, then telling his mom to tell his dad to take care. His sister asking his mom why Yoshiki was speaking so quietly. Now, if it isn't obvious, something is definitely up with our main character at this point, and I love the very subtle way that the story is conveying these feelings. Obviously, we know Hikaru's actions the previous night and the near death of Achan have severely affected him, and judging from Yoshiki's actions so far in this episode, it definitely seems like he is planning something. As well, we've seen him do a number of strange things. Besides his demeanor generally changing, he skips school when he seemingly never does that and calls his parents out of the blue just to check on them. This screams of the actions of a young man who is planning something potentially dangerous, even life-threatening. We then see Hikaru and Yoshiki walking along together, chatting, Hikaru saying that he would love to go see the ocean, as we see Yoshiki's demeanor shift in this conversation, but then changing back to normal, as he says maybe over summer break they can go to the beach. Yoshiki and Hikaru going back to Yoshiki's house just to hang out. Yoshiki showing Hikaru a video of the choir concert from school that they missed, as he gets up, walking off screen, reaching into a bag and grabbing something, as we see him return with his hand hidden behind his back. As in a flash, Yoshiki stabs Hikaru. Yoshiki falling to the ground with blood on his hands, shocked at what he just did, as he panics, saying that he knew Hikaru couldn't die. Yoshiki wishing he could have taught Hikaru to be different, Hikaru realizing that his best friend hung out with him all day just so he could kill him. Yoshiki wanting Hikaru's last memory to be a happy one, but since Hikaru won't die, this strange skin-walking entity won't die, he asks him to kill him instead. Hikaru then struggling with the thought of killing Yoshiki. Hikaru realizing that he doesn't value life enough, that humans are in fact afraid to die, and that's probably what is wrong with him and makes him different. Hikaru then reaching inside of himself as we watch him tear a piece of this eldritch entity out of himself. Hikaru telling Yoshiki that he has made himself smaller, so he won't be able to kill people as easily. Hikaru over this time seemingly has come to terms with these new emotions and this sense of belonging, these emotions belonging to the original human Hikaru, this feeling of having friends and a person he deeply cares about, of a person that accepts him for what he is. Yoshiki realizing that he shouldn't expect Hikaru to understand the meaning of life, as they are very much looking at this from two different perspectives, from two different worlds. Yoshiki telling the entity that you aren't supposed to be in this world, but if you want to stay in spite of that, let's do some research into what you really are, as we see a series of strange, ominous scenes flash before us. The two boys sitting together looking at one another as the screen begins to flash, as we see the eldritch blob-like entity within Hikaru slowly begin to consume Yoshiki, as episode 7 ends. And yeah, so once again, another banger episode from this anime, man. What did I just watch, guys? I've talked about this before when discussing this anime, but this anime has a very unique way that it approaches horror. Obviously, there are the more kind of on-the-nose horrific scenes, these scenes that are just completely creepy, weird, and obviously the jump scares, the very obvious more kind of horror scenes, the scenes dealing with the supernatural, or any scenes involving Hikaru's weird, like eldritch-like form. But as well, there is another sense of horror, of foreboding that this anime does. This kind of prevalent feeling of discomfort that very much permeates a lot of scenes in this anime. As I've discussed before, this anime very much kind of genre hops at times. Oftentimes, they present us with scenes, long periods of scenes that very much feel like a slice of life. Whether it's Yoshiki and Hikaru hanging out, Yoshiki and Hikaru at school, or just a bunch of scenes that Yoshiki and Hikaru aren't even in. Their school friends hanging out, people doing stuff around school, the choir scenes, what have you. There's a number of these scenes that interplay throughout this anime so far, and all of these scenes kind of come together to very much give this very slice of life vibe. If you just showed these series of scenes to someone who didn't know what this story was about, they would have no idea that this is a horror anime. Now, they do this in two folds. One, it very much kind of lulls us into a false sense of security to hit us with the more kind of on-the-nose horror scenes, but as well, these scenes themselves are very much a kind of an extension of the horror of this story. As slowly over time throughout the season, we've seen more and more of these scenes, and these scenes start to feel more and more just wrong. These slice of life F scenes very much present a story in a situation that is a calm everyday event, but we know that in reality, the true story of what is going on here with this this skin-walking Hikaru is anything but normal, is anything but ordinary. It's almost as if there is this thin veil of an ordinary, happy-go-lucky, small-town Japanese life on the surface, but when you peel back that layer, there is something darker, something more sinister and otherworldly, supernatural that is going on here. Now, this is very obviously done with a certain kind of theme and context in mind. There is these undertones of uneasiness throughout this entire episode as they slowly kind of tease out what Yoshiki's true motives are for why he is spending this time with Hikaru. We can tell throughout this episode through, subtle little teasers from things that Yoshiki does, as well as them just showing us scenes of Yoshiki obviously being uncomfortable, that something is not right with our main character. That while on the surface he is doing, he is skipping school and hanging out with his friend, there is something else that is going on here. Underneath the surface, something within his mind has changed, and he is very much planning something that is, much darker. As I was sitting here watching these scenes, I couldn't help get this uneasy feeling. It's like when you watch you know something bad is about to happen. It's like watching a train wreck or a car wreck happen in slow motion. Like, you see it happening, you have this uneasy feeling that something really bad is going to happen, but you can't exactly put your finger on it. That was very much the uneasy scenes of horror, these kind of nerves that I had watching this entire episode. It's so simple and so kind of minute in how they execute it, but they do it in such a way that is just like, it just hits so hard. Like, throughout the entire episode, I had this uneasy feeling that Yoshiki believed that he was going to die. Why else would he call his mother out of the blue, asking how she is and telling his father that, he wishes the best? This episode very much seemed like Yoshiki coming to terms with his own mortality, with a big decision that he was going to make, and it just felt so dark and so ominous, but it was kind of like, with this layer of like this real positive kind of like all these friends and these scenes, these slice of life scenes, it had this interesting dichotomy between like something very ominous and foreboding underneath, with overlaid with like something, happy, something normally that would be very happy-go-lucky, these kind of positive feelings and vibes from just watching two friends hang out together. Obviously culminating in the climax of this episode when Yoshiki attempts to stab Hikaru. This anime and this story are absolutely fantastic, man. I mean, like, the level of storytelling that we are going to in this anime, like, to me as like a fan of horror, of like psychological horror, of like, suspense and tension, this is like top tier, completely like peak psychological horror and like, really suspense. Again, another key kind of horrific element, horror scary element to this story is the relationship between Hikaru, the skinwalking Hikaru, and Yoshiki. This very toxic, obsessive relationship that has been, slowly evolving over time. This toxic, very like overly attached, obsessive relationship between Hikaru and Yoshiki, but now seemingly, it almost is in reverse. Yoshiki has a very unhealthy attachment to Hikaru, this love for his best friend who he knows is dead, but he is, hanging out with his doppelganger in an attempt to like, remember his best friend again that he knows is gone. Also understanding that this is not his real friend. This is something different. It is a eldritch-esque entity, a supernatural entity that is not like you or I, that he is trying to, bring some kind of humanity to. And the crazy thing is, this anime is so good that you can't help but feel sorry for this supernatural kind of entity at times, even though you know that at its core there is something sinister about it, that at its core it is dangerous, not only to Yoshiki, but to all of those around him, as we literally saw from last episode. I'm absolutely loving the Summer Hikaru Died. It is legit probably my favorite anime to come out in 2025 so far. It is an anime that I was very much looking forward to, having been somewhat aware of the manga before its release and being a massive fan of horror, but to me, this anime is very much living up to the hype. Again, this anime is probably not for everyone. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who maybe don't get this anime or just can't buy into it as much as I do. But for me, for fans of like horror, for fans of the weird, spooky, otherworldly, of the supernatural, and of a really kind of subtle, deep, very intricate story, I think this anime is amazing. It has all of the things that I would want from my horror anime. It is animated amazingly. The music's amazing. The voice acting is amazing. It is scary in many different facets. There are so many different facets of like horror playing out here that give you all of these very different, like, very different feelings of being scared. It isn't just like, jump scares for jump scares' sake, creepy, just like very obvious on the nose, like horror scenes. While those are very much there, there is this overall tension of like unease that permeates this entire story that I am absolutely obsessed with. Again, I think this anime is amazing. It probably might go down as one of my favorite anime of 2025 when this year is all said and done. As always though, guys, with these videos, these are just my thoughts and opinions, so feel free to let me know yours in the comment section down below. Let me know, what did you think of episode 7 of the Summer Hikaru Died? Do you think this anime is as great as I do? If you did enjoy this video, guys, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as that is the easiest way to support me, and it really does go a long way in putting these videos into the algorithm. If you did like this video, then why don't you check out some of my other anime content on screen now, and as always, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Until next time, guys, peace, love, Adu.